Good morning, everyone. It is so great to see and be a part of your day today. How are you enjoying your day? You notice I always start out with a good day or a good evening, a good night. And so at that time, I'm putting in a vibration of the first language that we're supposed to be speaking, the language of love. And it's needed in this community all over the world because our youth are just using so much swearing. I was just taken back by the language that is used today, and so I hope that on today you'll start your journey of learning the language of love, because that's what creation is all about, and that's why we do the Thanksgiving address. That's what is given to us is a language of love, and so how are we treating it? And it's so sad that you hear a lot of people using the swear words constantly. And we need to address that because, this is why we have to bring back the Thanksgiving address. We have to use it more and more. And so I like to continue that because that Thanksgiving address really, really is, oh gosh, it is so many things. But most of all, it is a lifesaver. And that's right, a lifesaver for all of us to help us to get out of any chaos. And I know right now you've been going through a lot of changes, a lot of challenges because that it's the changing of the moon. And so this is why learning and knowing and hearing the Thanksgiving address, you'll feel that you can get through anything. And so this is why the ancestors said to speak of this, and let them be reminded of the language of love and how creation puts that love into everything so that we're here today and that we're going to see tomorrow. And so, as we heard, we talk about last session, we talked about the reason why we do the Thanksgiving address. And so, we also talked about the people, and we talked about our bodies as a gift. We also see it. I'm telling you, from a grandmother's perspective, you have to know what's behind those words that we talk about and why, because it's just not words, it is a story behind each of those phases of gratitude. And so that's what we were doing, was learning behind the scene why we say that, because there's a meaning to everything, all our words. And so this is what I was doing. And so then we talked about our mother the earth and how she became our mother the earth, and the reason that we're receiving all this because she never got a chance to hold her children's children. So now she is looking after us by giving us all these gifts to help us to get through any challenges. And then we talked about, because of her love, how the grass grows and how all those plants grow, because that's a deeper relationship. When you see that grass growing, when you see those things growing, look at it as love, a mother's love that she wants to give to her children to make them feel well and to be well. And so when I look at that, that's a language of love. When I see all these things existing, you see, that's unconditional love. And so we need to remind remind everyone, because we still have a tendency to forget of love. And so I want, like, first of all, is to show you my shirt. My granddaughter's husband, my grandson, has created a shirt, and you notice this is what we're going to be doing later on today. And this is my great grandchildren. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Walking with creation and walking with the children. And so I'm very honored that my children, my grandchildren, they know. And so they know that there's love all around them. And so I'm sharing this with you. And so the time goes that we look and we see, aren't we blessed? Those are gifts: your sight, your hearing, your smelling, your tasting, your feeling, and knowing. Those are gifts that we need. to help us to look with both the eyes, to hear with both ears, inwardly and outwardly. And so this is why we are giving thanks. And so we will continue to give thanks. Now we look and we see those trees. Wow. You know, you need 13 trees just for you. That's how important you are. And you notice this year the trees are just so full. And it was because of the winter being extra cold this year. You know, the trees need it too because they need to build up resilience. So just be mindful when you ask for hot, hot, hot. It breaks down our immune system. And so it breaks down the trees system too. And this is why those bugs come. It's because they let us know that um, there is a need because everything of creation tells their story. And so when you see the trees being really in bloom, really thick this year, it was a sign of abundance of love because they got it from winter. And I really appreciate that, seeing those trees in full bloom. Oh, because after a winter, you know, you look forward to seeing life again. And so that's amazing. That's those trees there. There's so many trees, and but people like to take them down. There are many different families of trees, and that's just like us. They each have a purpose, and all those trees, they have a family, and they're all connected. And the trees are the ones that are reaching up into the sky world, and they hear the news before all else. And so they pass it down through their trunk to the internet underneath the ground, and they tell us what is going to happen. And people say they want to hear our stories. Well, just look at nature. Nature tells our story, what would happen if we don't start taking care of things. You notice there's a lot of dead trees. You notice the winds are coming stronger. So take that in consideration where we're not listening to those trees. And so when we're not listening, we feel out of balance. So give thanks to those trees because they're showing us how to give thanks. You see many trees, they stand like this. And what they're doing is they're acknowledging all creation, all the love and all the things because, you know, they have to, they have to, as they, that was their original instruction and they remember that. So when you know you have to do something, it's a role and responsibility and they really look after us and we ought to really should be thankful for that and that's what our people did a long time ago. We were always acknowledging a tree, each tree, people when they build a fire they throw in many they make a big bonfire and to me I think that is not very respectful because look how long those trees took to grow. And those trees are giving us a gift of renewing our spirit, renewing our spirit. And those trees, they are still fulfilling their duty. Even after they have their life has gone from the trees, they still have a gift of renewing us and releasing the traumas from our bodies. Why? And we're going to talk about that. And all those different trees, they all have a different purpose. They are to take care of us. And notice when you're going on a drive, look how many trees have been taken down just to build a house. Oh, it's sad because, those are protectors for all the communities. And so, all these gigantic homes, it is sad because the trees play a very important role. And those gigantic homes, they must consider those winds that are going to come because the winds are a lot stronger. So, this is why we give thanks. We acknowledge those trees because we know what they're doing. We know their purpose, and that's why we acknowledge Deitino Alada. We give greetings and gratitude because we know the sacrifice that they make for us. And so we're very grateful. So this is why when I build a fire, we start small and we let it come up, but we don't put on lots and lots and lots of logs. No, that's not the way the people did. And We didn't have a lot of, like you call, forest fires, because what we did was we made use of everything. They say, I know my elder, when we were talking about the trees, he had told me, he says, our forests look like parks because everything, it was a gift from nature. And when winter came, they call him the old man Frost. He'd come and he'd tap those trees, and this is a tree that I give you for the coming year so that you will be taken care of. And so this is why we did. But a lot of our visitors did not understand, and they killed a lot of their trees because they were afraid of the forest. They were afraid of that gift of not knowing. And yet, our people knew why all these trees were here. So when the coming of the visitors, they went and they clean and cut all the land. And so they took down many lives. That is our lives on how to be well. And so think about that and acknowledge, all those little kids, they all loved the tree. How many of you have spent times in the tree when you felt that you were in love and you went off and you sat in a tree, just sitting there, and the tree brought you comfort and brought you back that joy. I was so grateful that my mom, when I had children, my mom, I had been living in a big city, and my mom said, "I want you to come home when those kids start school. I want you to come home so they will know their purpose." And so I did. And I'm so grateful that I did because my children know their relationship with the earth. It is so sad that the people in the city have forgotten us. They don't understand why we give thanks to the tree. They don't understand why we give thanks to those bugs and all those things. And that's what's so important. We give thanks to all these things that helps us to be here today and helps us to have a good life, but we're not doing it because we're destroying all those things that give us a good life. So this is why we give thanks. And it's so, so beautiful that they're still following their instruction. And now we give thanks to that maple tree because he is the forerunner of all, he's the messenger of all creation. Because when our mother, they say, when our mother is stirring, when she is becoming awake, she's stretching and she's moving. They say at that time that she feels good. She's sending out that energy. I'm getting ready to have birth, to give birth to all, for my unconditional love, for my unconditional love. I'm going to give birth to all this creation to help my children. And so the tree hears that, and the tree starts feeling, can you imagine that tree feeling all excited? The tree has now, all creation is not it is a spirit. It is a spirit of love. That's how we understood it. And so that tree, when he hears that news that mom is getting up, it's just like any other child that knows that their mom has gotten getting ready to get up. They know there's a lot of good things going to happen. And so he sends it out. He sends out that 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 vibration. Mom's waking, get ready, get ready. And that's why we call the time of the sap, the sweet water. And so when that sweet water comes, that is a gift. That's that gift that we were to be given to help us, to renew us, and because it was to put new life into us. That's why it was to clean our bodies. So this is real good medicine. When you drink that sweet water, it is a good medicine. And there's so many stories of why we have everything, why they do their stuff, because it's all out of love, the language of love. And so that tree, when he wakes, he lets all the other trees know that it's time. And so he is so grateful that he's been given this cold winter, because that coldness has made him more resilient to all this, just like us. We have to use cold water, because if we don't, a lot of the virus is going to attack us just like it attacks the trees, like all those caterpillars. And so think about it when that in the time when it gets cold, do not complain, because that coldness, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's why. And so these trees are very happy when it's very cold, because they give us that medicine that is needed to make us more resilient. And so when they put all their love into that, that's why we become more resilient and healthy. And so I hope every one of you have had the opportunity to take of sweet water, to have that and remember that commitment from that tree. Now the oak tree, everyone has a purpose, and that oak tree is a strong wood. And we all knew of their families. We knew the different ones. And so in our community, we would have a lot of hardwood trees because they had a greater purpose for us, not meaning any less of the other ones, but they were to uphold our homes and create these things that was needed for us. And when you see a tree, you talk about resilience, you talk about um, adapting, because when those big winds come, what is a tree? I noticed the other day the trees were like this, and they were teaching us that acceptance. When things aren't running you the way you want, you have to learn to accept what nature is giving to us, and you have to, in order to be resilient, you have to be more flexible. And so that is acceptance, and those are words of forgiveness. There's a So the creation is teaching us a lot. And 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 then we have the hickory tree. They say us when we have our build our home, we are supposed to have a hickory tree, we're supposed to have a cedar tree, we're supposed to have a white pine tree, or plant them all around your house, because this ensures that your house you're going to be taken care of in a good way. And so all these shrubs, all these things, they're going to provide food for you in the hard times. They're going to take care of you. And so this is why when I built my home, I asked that these things would. I looked around and I saw that I had some hardwood trees, I had some soft trees, but most of all, I had the hardwood trees, and I had a white pine, and then I planted cedar. So you know that I would have medicines for when things got really rough with me. I would have the medicines. I would have the medicines to take care of me during the winter and during my trial time, testing time. So this is why. And crabapple, oh, we're supposed to have a crabapple tree. We're supposed to have a maple tree. We're supposed to have a sea. All these trees, they have a different gift for us for survival. And so it's not just, we didn't look at the trees as just for beauty like today's people. We looked at a tree like a doctor, like a helper, like you look at a nurse, because they came here to help you in your duration. Also, like a teacher. And you look at those trees, and those trees were always to be reminding you of that life. And so when I build a house, I also planted trees in commemorating of my loved ones, because we are all, a family tree, your history. And so I have planted trees, cedar trees along my off my porch. I had planted two on each end of my porch. And you know what? They turned into, there was one, as I said, there was two, then it ended before. And so I look at them as my grandparents. So I know when I come home, my grandparents are there. They are there waiting for me. And then I have my two cedar trees over it. That's my mom and my dad. Then I have one for my daughter that has passed on. I have one for my nephew. And I'm going to plant one for my brother. And so you see, my home is full of all my family, because they never have gone, because they're still here. And that's why I look to the family of trees as my family too, because they're going to help me get through rough times. And I'm just like you. I've had my hard times, but knowing the trees are there, I'm going to be okay. And so this is why I like to give thanks to all the trees. The white pine, that's what the peacemaker give us, to remind us on having peace. Because if you notice from the white pine, there is a cluster of five needles together, bond together. So it would represent the Mohawks, Oneidas, Onondagas, Cuba, and Senecas. But it also reminds us of unity, and it also reminds us of peace. Peace. So you see, those trees are also our teachers and also our reminders. And that is why we say, De Tino Alada, we give greetings and gratitude. So you see, they have a greater purpose. And those trees were also our first foundation. They were first our first discipline because we also made our cradle boards out of them. And those cradle boards was a gift to the coming faces to teach the children to stand tall and strong. And when I was a young person, I mean, well, when I was in my 20s, a person had said to me, "You must have been raised on a cradle board." And I asked them why. They said, "Because you stand tall and straight. Your back is straight." And oh, thank you. And and so all these things talk about our structure, discipline, and being in a cradle board really taught us about what we could do and what we couldn't do. And so if you see a child being in a cradle board, they're learning discipline, they're learning patientness, most of all, patience. And so they're learning how to use their other gifts, their eyes, their ears, their hearing, their smelling. And when they observe, this is why we say in our families, we must show our children that are coming, those little ones, that to be doing, because that's our responsibility, just like creation. So if a child is in a cradle board and he sees his family just laying around, not doing nothing, then that's how that child's going to be. That's why we would take the child with us wherever we went, when we were out in the garden, when we were harvesting, when we were hunting, when we were traveling. And so this is what our children had saw. And so when they said, they would see all these individual people, and they would saw, oh, that one can, look what that one's doing. I'm going to be like that one. I'm going to be like that one. I'm going to be like that one. And so being in that cradle board, that was a teaching from that oak tree. The oak is strong, and that's what we need, is to have strong resiliency. And so we have been blessed by those trees to give us what we need. And on the back of the cradle board would be all those beautiful design. It would talk about when the child was born. It would tell the history of that child by just looking at the carving that was done. And it was always done by the father, getting ready for fatherhood, his responsibility and his role. So you see, this is the story behind of Thanksgiving. It is so deep and it's so filled with love that this is how a grandmother would teach her children. It wasn't just a saying all those words. It was the story behind why we tell them. Because, little ones, they'll say, "Why do we say that, Grandma? Why do we say that, Duda?" I said, "Now I will tell you why. It is because they are here. They were made out of love to help us whenever we were going through a hard time." And so they have that's that relationship, and a relationship that is so deep. And so we see how the trees, they are different sizes, they're different shapes, there are shrubs and they protect not only us, but they protect the animals and they protect creation. And so you see, they are very much needed. And that is one of our medicines too, because how many of you had a twig? And look at the people with toothpicks today. We use that. We use that. When we got a cold, we didn't have to go. Our drugstore is right nearby, so all I had to do was go and take a piece of that twig or bark and make and tea. Oh my goodness, there's so much medicines out there. This is why we give thanks to those trees. The roots of those trees tell us how, you have to be you have to have structure, just like any tree. If the tree doesn't have a lot of soil around it, it's not going to last. And so that's what it means. The roots have to be really deep in their identity. They have to receive all that love from all the others. And so this is why, even when we went off to school, if we were misbehaving, and this is how we were taught, if the teacher disciplines you, you're going to be disciplined at home. So it was showing respect. And so every child was looked after by the community. Nobody says, you don't say that to my child. My dad said, if a neighbor sees you doing wrong, they have that right to speak to you that way because you are their community, you are their children. And so I've always done that. And as a result, a lot of those people, my neighbors, the people that were the older people in my community, I came to rely on later on in life as in our way, we would refer them as aunties and uncles or grandparents, because if they were old as our fathers and mothers, we would say they were aunties and uncles, just like the tree. It's a family. And so this is why it was so symbolic. And so now I will come to the animals that are here, and the animals that the four-legged ones, the two-legged ones, the winged ones, the fin ones, they are all here to help us to be who we are, because they each share a lesson for us. Each of those animals have taught us how to be resilient, how to take care of ourselves. They taught us about parenting. They taught us about medicines. They taught us how to build our homes. They taught us so many things. But most of all, they were our first counselors. They had listened with their ears whenever we were troubled. And so you see, this is why we were giving all these things. And I hope what I've shared with you so far is giving you an understanding. And I never really got into all the others that I was going to talk about. So I will continue more as time goes on. I will tell you more about the animals. But for now, I have shared up to this point of what we were to learn about. And so I send out my love and my gratitude, De Tino Halada, to all those that are still here, that are existing. And may you come to see them with new eyes and a new heart, to know that all creation is here to help us to overcome all our challenges. And so I say, take care and treat them with much love as you are getting from them, so that there is a continuation of life. And this is why you see us. Um, People call it protesting. No, we just want to stand and protect our family, just like we want to protect and make sure that they're going to be here also for you. So we ask that you come to see them as family, not as it, because they are more than what you people normally see as an it object. No, they are much more. And so I have given you this gift today. And so I say, oho, nyawa, miigwech. And I'm looking forward to sharing the rest with you next week. So stay connected to those trees, to the plants, to the earth, to the people, because that's the way we are meant to be. So I say, if there's any question, I hope that maybe the last series we would answer a lot of those questions. So just write them down for now. Just write them down, and after our last session, maybe we could have another one just to answer all those questions that you are having. But hopefully, as you sit here and listen to all this, you will have a better understanding, and your questions will be answered from each session that we are here. So take care and see you soon